If you're interested in photography, today I'm going to go through some advice and tips on where you should start. Firstly, let's talk about kit. You don't need a big fancy camera, you don't need a big studio. I haven't got a big studio. You can use an iPad, an iPhone, a small camera. We're just mainly going to be concerned about getting your composition right, thinking about how you take pictures, and of course your lighting. So go and grab your iPhone, your iPad, small camera, and we'll get started. So what do we mean when we say composition? We just need to kind of think a bit more about how our photos are going to look. So what can help you with this, and this helps me massively, are magazines and books. So I would normally get something like Vogue, Mum and Dad might have this, Vogue, Bazaar, any magazine that's got photographs in. They're really, really good because they contain a lot of the most famous and best photographers in the world in them, especially these kind of magazines. You can see where I've even marked out pages where I really like examples of photography and portraits that are already in here. And then quite often what I will do is I will look to see who took the photograph, and then I will go on the internet and I will research them. It's a really good way of getting to know what kind of photography you like, and what kind of style that you would like to recreate. So we've got things like Vogue, there's Bazaar, anything that high fashioned kind of magazine is really good for things like this because the photography is just second to none. And it is brilliant for giving you ideas. They might even have stuff like this in the library. Quite a few libraries do have things like this in them. If not, for Christmas or for birthdays, you can ask for books, like I've got Annie Leibovitz here, books that can help you out with ideas on different photographers. Basically all I ever do is research. I'm always on the internet, I'm always reading books, I'm always looking at magazines. So that can really, really help thinking about what kind of shoot that you really want to produce, what kind of portrait you want to produce. Is it going to be outside, is it going to be inside? I mean, a lot of the stuff that I've done recently is outside because of everything that's been going on. But it really does help to give you ideas of what you would like to do and where you would like to go with your composition and where you would like to go with the photographs that you want to take. So once you've done a bit of research and you've gone through some magazines, or you've gone onto the internet with your mum or your dad and had a look and seen what kind of photography that you like, you know, what grabs you, what catches your eye, what is the kind of thing that you would like to do. Once you've done that, you've got to think about how you're going to do it yourself. Now, at the moment, probably I would suggest a shoot outside is probably a good idea. You get more light. I mean, obviously it's weather dependent, but you get a lot more light and you've got a lot more textures and a lot more interest in where you can take some pictures. So perhaps a local common with a lot of trees, some nice long grass, backdrops. I love a wall, everyone will tell you that. If you haven't got a studio, and a lot of the time I will work outside because I prefer it, because of the light, I will try and find a really, really nice old wall to photograph people in front of. I will look at things like long grasses, things with interest, things with texture. That's the kind of thing that I would look for my composition. So you want a little bit of interest in your picture. So, or it could be a house as a backdrop, like a really nice house, somebody who's got like a pretty cottage or something like that always looks good in photos. Having said that, urban landscapes can be amazing as well. You know, you get a brilliant graffitied wall, or you get some really interesting flats. Anything that grabs you, anything that is going to give your photo a little bit of interest. Like if you've got somebody who's just stood against a plain background or a white background, that's fine for maybe if you want to do headshots, but it doesn't really tell much of a story. So if you want to kind of create a story, which I really love to do, I think finding somewhere outside that's interesting, and it doesn't have to be far, it can just be your back garden, it can be a really nice fence in your back garden, it could be a really nice tree, it could be a really nice bush or some grass or anything like that. You don't have to travel too far for it, but it will just give your photo some interest, and it will bring, when the viewer looks at your picture, it will just bring some interest and some life to your picture, and like I say, it's really nice to kind of tell some kind of story with it. So if your subject that you're taking a picture of, if it's perhaps their back garden, or perhaps it's the place that they like to go and play football, or it's a place where their mum and dad takes them for a walk and they really, really like that kind of countryside, anything like that, it just kind of tells more of a story with your pictures. So the next thing that we need to talk about in photography is lighting. It's probably the most important thing in photography. So now that you've thought about your composition and how you'd like to take your picture, where you'd like to take your picture, and what it's going to contain, what backdrops you're going to have, where it's going to be and who's going to be in it, you really need to think about where's your light going to come from. So for me, I try and avoid shooting, if I'm shooting outside, I try and avoid shooting around lunchtime. Anything where the sun is high in the sky doesn't make for great pictures. So I do try and shoot either first thing in the morning or last thing in the afternoon, because when the sun is low, it creates a much more, much nicer textures and shadows and a softness to your photos. You'll find that you may have noticed that if you take pictures with an iPad or an iPhone and it's a really, really bright day and your subjects are in light, you know, outside in the sunshine, they're going to have like a really brightness here on their nose and underneath here, and it's you won't be able to see their face properly. So, I mean, if I have to shoot at that kind of time of day and it's a really, really bright sunshine, then I will find some shade. So that's a big tip that I can give you if you're going to shoot outside and it's a sunny day. I would try and avoid kind of lunchtime-ish, noon, that kind of time, because that's when the sun is highest. But I would also, if you do have to shoot at that time, I would do it in the shade. Just find some shade. It doesn't have to be, don't find anywhere that's really dark, but it just needs to be shady. Where there is still light, you will find there's still light, you'll still be able to get really, really nice shots, but it means that you won't get that glare and all of that brightness kind of here and on the nose, and sometimes it catches the chin and it just, it blows out your whole photo. So that's a big tip. Also, always look at where the light is coming from. Say in the studio, I've got the light coming on me here. I don't want it directly in front of me because it's going to be too much. But if you have it slightly off to the side, then it just creates a kind of a softness and a nice shadows on your face. I mean, things like studio photography, that's a whole nother subject, and that's something that you'll learn as you get older. And something you can research now. You can still research it now and have a look, but you don't necessarily need to, is what I'm saying. You can use natural light. I love natural light. I very, very rarely use the flash. So I think that if you're outside and you're trying to think about your composition, think about where the light is coming from. Just look up in the sky. Look and see, where is the sun? I mean, we get a lot of cloud in this country, but I think just see where the sun is, and then that's when you know where to position your subjects, because it is lovely to have a lot of light in them. And if you've got like a cloudy, hazy day, that's perfect, and the sun's lower, because you don't need to worry too much. But I would say, if you're outside, try and find some shade, nothing too dark, because you won't be able to get a good shot, but you just need some soft shade, which will create a really, really beautiful effect, and it will just give you that filter that you need from that glare of the sun. So finally, I thought I'd finish with a few of my own tips that I've gathered over the years. The main one is not to follow by the rules at all. I think that you should take photos that you want to take. I think that you should experiment with different techniques. I think some of the best photographs that I've ever seen aren't technically perfect. I think that you should shoot into the sun and have the light behind people. It creates a really pretty light. I think that you should take pictures of movement and people laughing, and if it's blurry, then who cares? If it looks like a good photo and it conveys something really lovely, I think that you've got a good shot. I think that you should just try lots of different techniques, and don't be afraid of taking pictures. Just don't be afraid of taking pictures. Just take the pictures that you want to take, and be true to who you are. I think that's one of the main things. There's lots of different photographers in these books, in these magazines, and you can take inspiration from them, but they're never going to be you. And I think you know what you want to photograph and how you want to photograph. There are lots of different technical things that you can learn which do help, and I think that's a really good thing. But I think overall, if you just take the pictures that you want to take, especially at the moment, have fun with it. It's all digital, so it doesn't matter. None of it matters. You can take as many as you want, and then one in there might be really wonderful. I think you don't have to ask people to have massive big grins. They don't have to smile. I think a lot of my portraits that I take, I will ask people not to smile. I'll ask them not to be grumpy, but I'll ask them not to smile and to just look at me, and I want to kind of grasp who they really are. So you don't have to have big crazy grins. You don't have to have massive bright sunlight. You want cloud if you can get it. I think it really, really does help. If you can do these things, and you can just kind of lead by your instinct and what you feel you want to take as a good photograph. Now for the fun part, I'd really, really like to see the photos that you can produce after listening to my advice and my tips on photography. If you can, your parents can upload them to the hashtag Future is Hers or hashtag Festival of the Girl, then we can all see what beautiful work that you can produce. I know you can do it. I know that they will be beautiful photographs. I don't want you to be frightened of taking photographs. I just want you to take them, listen to what I've said, have a look at the kind of things that you would like to reproduce, and just photograph, from your heart. Just photograph what you want to photograph, and I'm sure they will be absolutely beautiful, and I really, really look forward to seeing them.